Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. This morning, we are continuing the conversation and giving you some updates regarding Tobago's autonomy and the conversations that have been happening. This morning, I welcome Senator Lawrence Hislop, a government senator, joining us via Zoom this morning. Good morning to you, Senator.
Morning, Rockers. How you doing? Morning, Trinidad. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. Let me start by asking to give us a brief update as to what took place in Parliament on Monday regarding the Tobago autonomy. But let's just get a quick recap for those who may have missed it, who may not have been paying attention. Let's give us a quick recap from your perspective.
Well, the two bills were brought at committee of the whole, which is the committee stage of the Parliament, for any amendments to clauses. At the committee stage of the whole, you go through the bill clause by clause, and if there are any changes that you require or you desire, those changes can be made at committee stage. That was done, remembering that the bills for additional autonomy for Tobago were two bills. One was the Tobago Island Government Bill, and the other one was the Constitutional Amendment Tobago Self-Government Bill. So those two bills were at committee stage of the whole. The Tobago Island Government Bill, which required a simple majority, was passed. But when the government got to the Constitutional Amendment Bill, which required a three-fourths majority, because we do not have that kind of majority in the House, that required opposition support. It required at least, I think it would be about 9 opposition members of Parliament to vote in favor of the bill. We did not get that support, so that bill failed at the vote.
All right. So let me deal with firstly the Tobago Island Government Bill. Can you give some details, as that one was the one that was passed? What does that mean for Tobago?
Well, the truth is the Tobago Island Government Bill required the Constitutional Amendment Bill to give it its teeth, to give it its grounding. And because even though the Island Government Bill passed, and I am no law expert, but even though the Island Government Bill passed, which was the framework to establish the governance structure in Tobago, because if they were passed, you would no longer have what is now called the Tobago House of Assembly in that format. What you would have gotten would have been the Tobago Island government. And because the Constitutional Amendment Bill did not pass, it meant that even though we got the Island Government Bill passed, you really don't have any framework, any foundation, any basis for the establishment of the Tobago Island government. And so even though we got that passed, because you didn't get the Constitutional Amendment Bill passed, you really have nothing.
Okay. So the Island Government Bill is null and void without the constitutional amendment, yes?
Yes.
All right. And you're saying that the changes to the clauses made in the Constitutional Amendment Bill, they were made during at the committee stage. At each committee stage, you went through clause by clause, and the suggested changes is what was presented to Parliament on Monday?
Yes, the government would have brought amendments on Monday, and in the committee stage, clause by clause, those amendments were made. But those amendments were not to the liking of the opposition, and I dare say to the liking of the Tobago House of Assembly. I want to reiterate something, that what really transpired on Monday was the Tobago House of Assembly, led by the chief, well, not even the House of Assembly, the chief secretary, individually, as an individual, scuttled the bills completely, because you are sending suggested changes to the Prime Minister minutes before the sitting of the House at 10 a.m. So the Prime Minister clearly stated, and this was after MP Saddam Hussein attempted to derail the process because information came to the opposition. And he said that the information came to the opposition an hour before. And the Prime Minister stated on the record that he received via WhatsApp some document or a document coming from the Chief Secretary 2 minutes before the start of the sitting. And and that's not how the work of the parliament is done. That's not how governance is done. And we've made the point that the chief secretary has been in office for 3 years. They campaigned on the promise of Tobago autonomy being front and center in the agenda for the administration. And they've been in office for 3 years, and they have not pushed any conversation, as any meaningful conversation, I would say, as it relates to self-governance for Tobago or additional autonomy. Because
Senator,
the issue was, mhm.
let me ask: was it Tobago House of Assembly representatives, the chief secretary, etc., were they involved in the committee stage of the amendments being made?
No, you would. The committee of the whole is only made up of members of parliament. Your 41 MPs.
Right.
That's where but the point I'm making is that you can submit to the parliament recommended amendments, or you could even have a conversation. So the
Right.
point I was making is that what the chief secretary could have done for those 3 years that he's been in charge of Tobago, quote unquote, is sit, have conversations with Tobagonians, with legal experts about what are some of the changes you wanted to see in the current legislations that were before the parliament. Have those conversations and then approach the parliament, approach the prime minister, approach the opposition leader, and say to them, this is the position, this is the additional position or changes that we want to see in these legislations. This is what should have been done, and not 2 minutes before the sitting of a house of something so significant for the people of Tobago and Trinidad. And to me, that is where the real issue lies.
So I just want
It's
to be
about what you. Mhm.
I just
Go
want to
ahead.
be clear about what you're saying. You're saying that in the 3 years that this has been, well, I mean, it's been going on for way longer than 3 years in terms of the
Well,
conversations of
correct.
autonomy, right? But in the
Correct.
last
Yes.
3 years, the Tobago House of Assembly have made no suggestions as to what amendments they see as beneficial to the people of Tobago, what amendments they would like to see made to the Constitution.
No, but they've made suggestions just by saying it, Rockers. They've stood up on platforms, in interviews, said what they would like to see. But what I'm saying is that there is a process by which this is done. From 2007, there was the then administration under Mr. Orville London had conversations with other political leaders within Tobago. Those things were then put into a Tobago House of Assembly bill, which was debated in the Tobago House of Assembly, passed as a motion, and sent to the cabinet.
Right.
That is what was sent to a joint select committee. So the point I'm making is that when you came into office as chief secretary, if there were issues in the bills that you had if there were things in the bill that you had an issue with, what you were supposed to do is to follow the similar process. Have the consultations in Tobago, bring forward a motion to the Tobago House of Assembly, have it debated, forward those changes that you would like to see to the cabinet. And then that you could have also forwarded to the opposition leader. As leadership demands also that you can then request a meeting with both prime minister and opposition leader, because they lead benches in the house. So after you've had those conversations and you come to the house, you should have a consensus that is laid on the table. But you can't come 2 minutes before a sitting and expect that what you as Chief Secretary Fali Augustine sees as changes should be made as changes, because who are you speaking for? When did you consult with Tobagonians about these changes that you would like to see? When did you lay something in the House, in the Tobago House of Assembly, to have a consensus, to have a vote that says this is the Tobago position? So it can't be that the Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, says this is Tobago position when you have not spoken to anybody of significance, when you have not had consultations. And that's what we said. And so when you did that on Monday, you basically scuttled the bills. You gave the UNC a reason to say we're not supporting the bills. When if you had a united position, it would be hard pressed for even the UNC to say this is not what Tobago wants. And that's the point that I'm making.
Okay, so I just doubling back to make sure that I'm clear on what you're saying, right?
No problem, no problem.
The challenge that we're really seeing is that the due process was not followed. There wasn't the laying of the suggested amendments in the Tobago House of Assembly so that it becomes an official document that can be presented to the Parliament. Yes?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay,
Because
so
what we got was basically one man saying, "This is what I would like to see," instead of what was done previously
right.
that gave a Tobago position that
And
came out of the Tobago House of Assembly.
so the one that was laid in Parliament on Monday would have been the previous one that went through the THA.
Yeah, that went through the THA, that even went through the joint select process, because we have
Right.
to remember that even though the Tobago House of Assembly back under Mr. Orville London sent Tobago bill, or what they did was send a Tobago bill to cabinet. What transpired from that is that this bill was laid in the parliament by the prime minister as is. And it was when it was laid in the parliament as is, it was sent to a joint select committee. And the joint select committee went through the process from then to now. And then it was debated in 2021. And so what we saw on Monday was a continuation of all that work that would have started since 2007.
It's very interesting. So then I'm lost as to why all the name calling and the blame game and all that stuff is happening now then. If it is that there was no due process, then what feet are we standing on?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the chief secretary will be standing on. I know we are standing on the premise that we've lost a great opportunity to move Tobago forward. And I don't know when we are going to have another opportunity like this, because the argument is by some quarters that we want all. And the question we keep asking, what is the all? And I made a point last night as well on another program that the autonomy question about Tobago has always been in increments, Rockers, because when the modern Tobago House of Assembly was reestablished in 1980, that was incremental. There was additional powers that was given to the Tobago House of Assembly in 1996, which is what we now operate under, Act 40 of 1996. And so the next step in our evolution as an island would have been these particular bills. And I want to also say to our brothers and sisters in Trinidad, this was not an issue about Tobago seeking to go on its own or seeking independence or trying to feed off of the treasury of Trinidad. And I always hear that. And I have to remind folks that we are a unitary state. And so Trinidad and Tobago's treasury is also contributed by people resident, businesses resident as well in Tobago. And because we are a unitary state, there's also resources within our maritime boundaries that benefit Trinidad and Tobago. So this was not about Tobago wanting to go on its own and wanting to spend quote unquote Trinidad money. This was about the people of Tobago wanting the ability to self-actualize, to be able to say in our own jurisdiction that is Tobago, our own island that is Tobago, we should be given a level of autonomy that says that we could manage the business of Tobago, not independent of Trinidad, but we should
No,
be able to be still
Senator,
part of the family, but be able to also make our own decisions as well.
one of the things that keeps coming up is that same maritime boundary that you mentioned just
Yeah.
now, right? And, the request for 11 nautical miles to be called Tobago's water specifically to give the THA some sort of control over that water. Can you tell us the significance and the importance of that 11 nautical miles?
But you see, those things speak to management, because, okay, if we have the responsibility for agriculture and fisheries and so on, it gives the Tobago Island, it would have given the Tobago Island government the ability to say, okay, we want to manage certain aspects of the marine space or marine parks, maybe fisheries. We could look at putting into law areas that we could manage a little better. We could then dictate by law and not just by policy what transpires within our marine parks, what transpires with let's say the
I've even heard about oil and
environmental
gas.
protection and that kind of. Well,
I've heard oil
you
and
see,
gas on the table too.
You see, Rockers, I don't know if there's any significant oil and gas deposits within an 11 nautical mile radius. But you see, that's one of the arguments you hear in coming from other persons, that we should be able to exploit our own oil and gas within Tobago. But you see, it comes back to the point that we still are a unitary state. Now that conversation could come in if we want to go on we own. But I could tell you, Ruckus, that's not the consensus of the wider Tobago population. The wider Tobago population said since back in 2007, we want to remain part of the unitary state that is Trinidad and Tobago. We just want to be able to manage more effectively, because this is devolution of power. This is about local, truly local government governance within Tobago that says, okay, if within a zone, maybe let's say a school, the national law doesn't speak to something directly, the Tobago Island government could then come and pass a law that speaks directly to an issue that is unique to Tobago. And that's what it really is. It's not about usurping anybody's authority or even seeking to go on our own. It's about saying that if I am in my local environment, recognize that there is something that I can do legally to make my local environment better, I should be able to do that as a government in Tobago and as a people in Tobago.
All right, Senator, before we wrap up, I want to find out what's the way forward then? Is there a way forward? Because you said you don't know if you will see it late again. We've been dealing with this autonomy bill for years now, decades now. We've been having this conversation. What is preventing the bill from being laid in the next parliament, the next sitting?
This bill in itself, I don't think can be laid in the next parliament, because, and I want to remind us that this government saved the work of joint select committees from parliament to parliament. And that was a commitment given by Dr. Rowley. Dr. Rowley gave the commitment that he is going to do all that he can to give Tobago additional autonomy. So the bills were saved, the work, of the committee, of the Joint Select Committee, was saved from parliament to parliament. We've put it to the vote. So now that you've put it to the vote, that's it. What can happen in the next parliament is that a new iteration of a Tobago autonomy bill comes back again to the parliament. But I want to remind us that it took us from 2007 to now to get that work done. Because what you require is consensus. So you require mature conversation, you require consultations. You're then going to have to speak to Trinidad, because we still want to remain part of the unitary state. So you would have to speak to Trinidad, which is what the Joint Select Committee process was about, to have feedback from our other MPs, to have feedback from citizens or residents of Trinidad who want to put their voice to the conversation. So you're going to have to go through all of that process again. You'll also have to spend more money, because Joint Select Committee process, talking to experts, getting legal advice, Rockers, isn't free. And so all the work, all the time, all the money that was spent to get the bills to where they were on Monday has literally gone down the drain. What you could do is save the research. But if you're looking for additional information, obviously you're going to have to bring in experts again. Legal person's going to have to draft again, which is going to cost us money. And so I really say that we've lost a great opportunity to move Tobago's development trajectory upward. We've actually regressed, because everybody has complained of Act 40 of 1996 being inadequate for Tobago in a modern era. We were seeking to move that needle forward. The current administration scuttled it. And so the question that you have to ask is to the Chief Secretary, what is the way forward? And if after 3 years he did no consultation, is he willing now to sit and do the work that is, because a lot of work? Are you willing to do the work now to get Tobago to a place that it could have been Monday? And
Thank you.
that's the issue.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Senator. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for the update, and we will look forward to getting more updates soon.
And compliments of the season to you and all the staff at TTT and all of Trinidad and Tobago. Have a healthy, safe Christmas and a bright and prosperous 2025. God bless.
You as well, Senator. Take care. That's Senator Lawrence Hislop, the government senator, just giving us an update on Tobago's autonomy and the push that was taking place and where we are at now. Let's take a quick break and we come back with more on the Now Morning Show.